He's a beacon of hope. In the hardest times, he helps us cope. With a heart so pure and a spirit so grand, he's the guardian of the goat's land. So here's to the goat daddy, may his legend live on in the hearts of the brave where his spirit belongs. With blue wrenches gleaming under Valhalla's light, we honor the goat daddy through the endless night. In a valley deep where the rivers flow, there's a legend of a man with a heart of gold. He's the ruler of the meadow, the king of the field, with 1,000 blue wrenches that he wields. They call him Goat Daddy, strong and true, with fearful of morning dew. His eyes gleam bright like the northern lights. He's ready for the battle in the darkest nights. Valhalla awaits, the Goat Daddy calls. With the strength of 1,000 wrenches, he stands tall. Blue wrenches in hand, he's leading the way to the halls of the heroes where legends stay. From the dawn till dusk, through storm and sun, he's a shepherd of the flock, the chosen one. Every wrench he holds tells a story old of the battles he's fought, of the brave and bold in the meadows wide.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's going to be an interesting evening. I'm looking forward to it. I hope y'all are having fun. We have a star-studded panel that I am super proud to present to you all. And without further ado, let's bring up my boy, Baker. What's up, Baker? How you doing, brother?
I am doing great. I'm on vacation, so this is only my second stream today.
Yeah, same. I was going to try to go to the pool, and then, more craziness happened in the last 24 hours.
I know how it is.
Yeah, it was you that was yelling at me, actually, now that I think about it. Baker is the first of many guests tonight. Second, we're going to bring up the great Mark Bederow. How are we doing, sir?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming.
Sure.
I am eagerly anticipating the news of the last 24 hours and your opinion about it.
Sure. A lot going on.
It sure is. Mike from the Young Jerks. How we doing, sir?
Good. I was just trying to set it up for my girlfriend so she can watch. I was just sending a text.
My bad.
Everyone wants to watch the show tonight.
I should have gave you an extra minute or two.
Oh no, I think I got the text out right in time.
Outstanding. Brandy Churchwell is coming. She's coming, but she's going to be a few minutes late. So we're still anticipating her arrival. And in the meantime, let's just get into it, shall we? So the news, of course, is that Karen Reed was hung jury. It was a mistrial. And immediately following that last night, Trooper Proctor was relieved of duty. And today, I believe it was today, might have been yesterday. It was today. It was today. The Massachusetts State Police Colonel put out a statement that I found very interesting. Very interesting. Among other things, there's news on the Turtle Boy front with really bizarre potential threat, I guess. However you look at it, it was disturbing and disgusting. I don't know who put it there, but when you've got a snapping turtle unalived and hanging in your parents' house on their fence post, there's probably a message there for Aiden, I think.
Yeah, I think it's disgusting that Court TV has people on crying that they're victims and they've been harassed. And that person has a restraining order against them from Aiden. And the first, I asked people, who do you think did that? Like, who could have done that? And the two names came up. That was one of them. Their guest last night on Court TV. So it just, to me, it's just unreal when the other side claims that they've been harassed and victimized. And I've never been harassed so much in my life covering being involved in political campaigns. You think you get harassed? Being a journalist, I was a columnist for 10 years for Dick Boston. Nothing. This has been nothing like anything else in terms of harassment. So I just think it's strange that the rest of the media, especially in Boston and Court TV and the rest, they don't acknowledge that a bunch of us creators and the women at Canton have been harassed. The women who now have to go to the FBI because the Canton police won't help them. There's been a lot of threats, and it's been the McAlberts versus everybody else. And I just don't understand why that's not getting any coverage beyond like our YouTube shows.
And the bizarre part of that is just like you're saying, the gaslighting coming from the anti-Karen Reed group, whatever that means. I'm not sure how you could be anti somebody that's very clearly innocent, right? But they're the ones that have all been screaming and malicious and intimidating and threatening. Melanie Little is getting threats. I know Brandy Churchwell is getting threats. I know, Mike, you're getting threats.
Daily, I got another one today. 2 more today, actually. I love them. I mean, I'd say bring it on. Come on down. I'm just looking for them to show up in the North Shore.
As long as they're not delivering your coffee at night.
That poor Amazon guy.
You heard that? I ran down the stairs.
Who delivers coffee at 3:30?
I don't know. That's Amazon. That's
crazy.
I ordered it like last night. The pods. Yeah. Like what the hell? 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, it's so funny.
But
it's unfortunate.
But there's a reason why we have to up all this craziness now. Because without the Karen Reed case, what do they have? Because you'll turn your content around. You'll still keep an eye on the Karen Reed. You'll make content. You'll have great shows. Mark, you have probably enough to do with your law firm, and you'll guest spot. Yeah, and you can come along, talk about Sarah Boone, because you're not an idiot. You can think about more than one thing in your life. And Valhalla, he'll go a goat fence. All of us will move on and still keep an eye on the Karen Reed. They have nothing else.
I don't think they will. I think these people, half of them hate Turtle Boy. So that's going to be, they're just, as long as Turtle Boy exists, they have something to do. That's it. Like, to me, it's funny, too, that a lot of these folks that were supposedly my allies on the left who, I didn't agree with them when they said all cops are bastards. They said that a lot, ACAB. Now they got John O'Keefe shirts on and they're hanging out with the Alberts. Like, so it's not really about left or right for them. It's about hating Turtle Boy. That's all it is. It's just hating Turtle Boy.
Well, a great example of that, and you're 100% correct, right? Because the four of us, I believe, are on completely different political spectrums. And we've done how many of these shows together now and communicated effectively without argument. And we're all logically on the same page. This is beyond political or left and right for most of us, except for that anti-Turtle Boy crowd, I think.
Yeah, that's a litmus test, clearly, for a lot of people. It's either you're on either side of that, and that's it. So it doesn't make much sense. But, I mean, it was kind of funny when they were protesting the other day. Somebody did a nice job of superimposing a left and right photograph of the same people from a few months ago, and they're jumping up and down free Karen Reed shirts, and they're, Karen Reed is guilty shirts today. And what's the common denominator that made them switch? These are all sworn enemies of Turtle Boy. So I think you're right.
100%.
I mean, one of them was literally in bed with him. Literally? When he kicked her out of the bed, then, I mean.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. Okay, never mind.
well, you can say a lot about Aiden, but women, it's not a strong suit. It's
easy, buddy. Easy, buddy.
At least
I wasn't sure where you were going with that for a minute.
One of his women, he, and I think he knows that. That's no surprise for him. But she was a diehard Karen Reed. Is not guilty, and now she's standing there with a sign, and she's just there because she has the restraining order. So Aiden has to leave.
That's exactly it. It's a weaponized restraining order at this point.
2 months ago, Katie promised her half of the media empire that is Krusty Pants
Mass
Show.
Troll Mafia. Like that says a lot too. Like they're being harassed, and her network is called Mass Troll Mafia. Like what the hell is that?
And they're clearly organizing, right? They're clearly organizing against the people that are influencing, maybe not influencing, maybe pointing out some of the facts of this situation. And
no doubt about it.
Yeah, they're trying to. That's what it is, right? They're trying to silence the people that are speaking logically on the subject matter.
I watched video the other day of these people, like they were on the runway, like on the models on the runway. They're clearly not models, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But prancing down the street with the megaphone and the looking around like
they're looking for trouble.
And all I'm thinking is like, you know what I thought of? The word that jumped out. They look like a bunch of carnies. They're just a bunch of, like, freak shows, just like crashing the party for what? To do exactly what? And then the court TV people swoop them up and put them on TV and are asking them with a straight face, what is this organization that you're about? This
organization. I know, right? That was the laughable.
It's sad, and and they don't know anything about who's credible and who's not credible. They have no intelligent opinions that I think would educate a viewer or be entertaining, other than we hate Karen Reed, we think she's guilty. They don't even get into the why they feel that way, which, as you said, is all about Turtle Boy more than anything. They don't talk about anything analytical. They just say, we're here to stand up for the John O'Keefe side, and somehow that's newsworthy for court TV, and that's just stunning to me. I mean, I don't understand how that's good content, and why any producer would say, yeah, get them, and then get them again.
Yeah, it blows my mind that some of the people they bring on that show. I've been, y'all, I try to stay out of the drama. I try to not pick fights, but Jennifer Coffindaffer on Twitter lately, I just can't. I can't take her stupidity and the way she grifts off of being a retired federal agent, whatever the hell that means. It drives me nuts. As a former Army soldier,
right?
In playing that card, it hits a special part for me that just it aggravates the crap out of me. So I've been kind of trying to pick a fight.
Is it almost like a form of like a lesser form of stolen valor kind of thing, where it's just offensive in that she's overstating and it's offensive to somebody who's actually been in the trenches?
That's exactly what it is. And you see these people a lot, right? And whatever that means. I don't know anything about her actual service. She might have been a superstar. I have no idea. But generally speaking, the people that play that soldier service card the most are the ones that couldn't hack it. They failed out of boot camp, or they hurt their leg and got medically retired, or whatever the hell that means, right? And again, I don't know anything about her service. I'm not making any claims on her specifically, but she strikes me as that sort of individual.
Well, common sense tells me, and I don't know this either, but I don't doubt that she was an FBI agent, but there are different levels of, and this I know very well, different levels of FBI agents. I can't imagine that she was ever, a so-called brick agent out in the street working cases, a case agent, and I'm basing that just upon her analysis, which is devoid of any understanding of federal criminal procedure or logic or investigative strategy, and even just basic things about what's happening in this case and trying to equate it to her own experience. It's kind of sad. I think she, is flyby for people who are really casual and just want to hear what they're told and hear that people fight for victims. But at least in this case, let's call it what it is. She's just kind of made herself a useful idiot, advancing the DA's position and never provides any analysis. That's the thing that first struck me. She speaks in conclusory terms and just adds nothing in terms of anything other than, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear somebody thinks that Karen Reed's guilty, so I like this. But she adds nothing to the intellectual nature of the conversation. The most productive thing she's done online is be made fun of in videos, creeping around what used to be Brian Albert's house to the Pink Panther theme.
Yeah, right.
Never did that.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Absolutely. Yeah.
And the thing about her is she has been exposed. Like, she her whole business model, and this is what a lot of the old media drives me crazy. I think the Boston Globe does this a lot. They trade their integrity for access to the DA and the cops. So, like, Jennifer Coffindaffer isn't going to question anything, because if she does, the DA cuts her off. And she's been exposed that she works directly with David Traub, who is the PR rep for Michael Morrissey, the DA. And they did a recruitment campaign. They recruited KP, the DA did. They recruited Grant Smith Ellis. They recruited Kevin. They tried to recruit me. So I know all about this. Like, she has sold her soul. And this is the game that they play. They trade information. They'll give you an envelope of information that nobody else has, but you got to stick to the script with them, and you have to not question anything that the DEA says.
Well, that's how
Jennifer Coffindaffer.
That's how intelligence works. I don't know if you guys know this, or chat. I don't know if you guys know this, but that's how the CIA works. They have these idiots that will say whatever they want. They'll trade little favors back and forth. And so we were talking beforehand, and I almost wonder if that's why Court TV is in the position they're in right now.
Yeah, they work pushing. Are they like another Coffindaffer? Are they working for the DA? That's what I think. I think the Globe. I think that a lot of these outlets. That's how they work.
Yeah, but fellas, huge fans of all of you. Thanks for everything. You are very welcome.
Yeah, but the thing is, Court TV. You saw that Kion they had the other day with state expert says the car hit her. They are becoming clickbait now. It's been just to split the baby equally. Both CNN and Fox have done this in years. Everything is breaking because they need people to say, "Oh, I'm going to watch it." Look who's getting the coverage from this trial and from most Court TV have 17,000 people watching. Emily D. Baker has 100,000 because people like people you can feel. I think all of that breaking has decentralized people to all that mainstream media. And when you have all of these small groups, you can't control them. It's really easy for someone in the White House to say, "Hey, I'll give you the scoop on this one if you put us at the 8 o'clock spot."
Well, speaking of being uncontrollable, please allow me to introduce the one, the only, the wonderful Brandy Churchwell. How you doing, babe?
Hi, hello, family, friends.
Loud, so loud.
Yeah,
again. I didn't mic settings. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much.
That's why I made you have the panel tonight, so I didn't have to.
It's funny because every time I'm on a panel, then it's like I get on the panel and everybody's like, "Oh my God, she's so loud," and then I go back to my stream and everybody's like, "I can't hear you." So I don't know what the settings are, like what the difference is with, but whatever.
Well, we figured it out now. I think you're on a normal level of sound. I hope.
Oh, nobody's ever called me normal before. That's amazing. So exciting.
Do you think these jurors that voted guilty, now seeing the facts, have remorse? Personally, I don't think so. I don't know.
No, because what's different? I mean, they saw what they saw, so they look at the news and see that the feds are looking into this.
Exactly.
And they must have known that anyway. And if they were denying the science a day ago, I don't know what seeing anything online today is going to make them change. I mean, to me, it's just a matter of how many. If it really is 6, which some people suggest, that's just stunning beyond belief. I can't. I mean, I don't believe it until somebody interviews a real juror who says this is what the breakdown was, if they're even able to do that. But it's been suggested that that's the case. That's alarming to me. I don't know that. Like, I lose faith in humanity if there's
seriously really after those crash reconstruction guys. It's like, how can you question anything?
Right. Even without that. But I agree. That's the crusher that is the be all end all. Nothing to talk about anymore. And to have 6 people say, "Well, not really," is remarkable.
I couldn't agree more.
It's scary too, honestly. It's kind of scary.
I keep hoping it's not true.
This is why I like bench trials, guys. I keep telling you, for cases like this, If it's
Bench.
open and shut, I like bench trials. Not with this judge, but generally.
Yeah. I would just say, are you sure you want to have a bench trial with Bev Cannon when she's?
Yeah, I've definitely lost a lot of faith in jury trials, but there's some judges out there that I sure wouldn't want to have decide my fate either.
I'm not suggesting it would be a bench trial in front of her, but I could make a hell of an argument that you would at least listen to that it should be. And I'm not sure I agree myself, but I don't think it's ludicrous to do a bench trial in front of her. I'm not saying I would do it, but her issues, I don't think, are not understanding what reasonable doubt is. And, 40 years as a lawyer, I don't think she's going to convict an innocent person of a murder because she doesn't like the lawyers. But that's a conversation for another day.
I was going to say, to push back on that, I would argue that with the ARCA evidence, she should have dismissed this and attempted to convict an innocent person in this case specifically.
I don't think she can dismiss it, but what I think she could have done was recognize that this case is garbage, and that can influence a lot of things, including your demeanor, your lack of frustration with the DA, which should have been more evident, cutting off more of their nonsense, giving the defense more latitude. I mean, there are things you can do to kind of editorially signal what you think. And it is disturbing knowing what the evidence was, that she still was not doing the defense any favors about anything. But yeah, I agree. A real judge could have looked at them before the trial and said to Lally, can you explain to me how in the hell you think there is any chance whatsoever that this case is not getting acquitted, and why are we here? Some judges might do that, knowing what the evidence is going to be, but she didn't do any of that. So
she sure didn't.
Can I ask Mark a question? Did you read the DA's announcement yesterday?
Yeah.
Do you see it as a backdoor that will? They don't say we will retry it.
Yeah. What we intend. Yeah.
Intend.
That's no accident. That is leaving wiggle room so that when they eventually back out, as I believe they will say that we never lied to you. And I mean, Mike and I were talking about this yesterday, right after the verdict. Of course, their initial response is going to be, it's our intent to retry. It has to be, but that doesn't lock them into anything. And I don't think they will, but they're going to give the impression that they intend to right up until a certain Friday of a holiday weekend at about 4:59 p.m. when they slip a piece of paper to some reporter saying, oh, by the way, that trial that's supposed to start in 3 weeks, never mind.
Yeah.
I think they'll string everyone along the maximum amount they can.
No, they want to drag her
media down.
They're gonna keep her mouth closed. They're gonna keep her lawyer's mouth closed. Mm-hmm. Keep her under her bail conditions. They make her suffer, and also they need to see how the chips are going to fall with the feds and other things. And at some point, the choice may be taken away from them. If something dramatic happens with the feds, then practically speaking, they won't be able to go forward and it will be out of their hands. But at least for now, I mean, what are they supposed to tell John O'Keefe's family? We tried, go home, sorry. They're not going to do that until they have to do that.
Yeah, I think part of it, I was thinking about that too, about what you said about, like, part of it is just keeping control over her. Because when they have this in limbo, kind of waiting for this potential new trial, it does keep a lot more control over her, to where, because it's like, imagine if, right now they were like, okay, we're not going to acquit her. And then all of a sudden she's able to go, do interviews, say what she wants to say, do what she wants to do. And there's already so much negative attention on the DA's office. And on that, I think being able to, if she were to go do all of these interviews and say whatever she wanted to say, I think it would push so much more of that, anger that everybody's already feeling toward them. And I think that a lot of, I agree with what you said. I think a lot of this has to do with being able to kind of keep, not that that's the only reason, but I think that that's definitely one of their, perks.
Huge.
Yeah, well, they're also, the more you kick the can down the road, it's like anything else in life. I don't have to make a decision, so I just want to curl up in a ball, close my eyes, and maybe if I wake up, it'll go away, and they just keep doing that. But I think they're also very short-sighted and not, a hung jury for them is worse than the acquittal, because what's going to happen, we were talking a little bit about this before we started. So now the defense has months to kind of recalibrate. And there were certain things that happened in the trial that happened in real time and live time that they really couldn't deal with effectively, or as effectively as they would have wanted. They did deal with it effectively. I'm talking about the Sally Port video. They learned about that literally as it was happening during the trial, and they exposed it. They got some value out of it. But now, what's going to happen over the next couple of months? I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen over the next couple of months. They're going to get an investigator. They're going to find out what's going on. They're going to send out subpoenas. They're going to send discovery demands to the DA. They're going to file motions. They're going to talk to the feds. Is there anything else you can tell us? And they're going to find out the truth about the Sally Port. Why was the video inverted? Why wasn't it disclosed for 2 years? Why are people apparating on and off, in and out of the video? Who is in the Sally Port? Why did this happen? Why did Buchanan lie about who was driving and the tow truck driver and all that? And if they retry the case, they're going to be armed to the teeth with this stuff and crush them with it and expose it as one big lie. And if they're able to do that before the trial and they file a motion, which will be publicly filed in the news and people read about it before the trial, that could wipe them out too. So it's going to be much worse for them.
So this gentleman here, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I believe it's Mraz. I think Mraz, something strange.
Oh,
but
Colonel Mon.
There you go.
MAWN.
Thank you, sir. So this is the Massachusetts State Colonel. Basically, he runs as far as I understand it, he runs pretty much the Massachusetts State Police. And he put out a statement today that I'd like to
I thought you were going to tell me that. I'm sorry. I thought you were going to tell me that was like Morrissey's cousin or something.
Doesn't it look like him?
He might be. He might be.
I can see the resemblance.
Yeah.
Do you think he just grew out a little bit of top hair recently too? Like he just tried not to look like the other guys?
Trying to not be bald.
It looks like fresh moss. Yeah.
Yeah, fresh moss on Mon.
Well, we'll listen to a couple minutes of this. And this was put out, I think, today around noon or 2 o'clock or something.
There's a process that needs to occur. Right now, there is an open internal affairs investigation that requires some due diligence on our part. A lot of the process in the Mass State Police is dictated by policy, by rules and regulations, by the collective bargaining agreement. So we're going to follow that process, and we'll come to a conclusion when we have all the information and we've made sure that we've done this in a procedurally correct way.
He doesn't look happy, does he?
No, he's not good at this.
I think I've been very clear, and I want to remain very clear. Misconduct in any way, shape, or form of the Massachusetts State Police will not be tolerated. I think I've said
it was for 2 years
that I condemn
what
those comments
behavior,
in the strongest
though?
terms possible. They are not reflective
Can't list that,
of the
can he?
Massachusetts State Police. That's not where we want to be as an organization. And I believe that we will certainly continue to monitor that, and as we are moving through the process of our internal affairs investigation.
So he's obviously talking about Proctor, right? And as far as we know, that's all he's talking about because he won't give us any more information. But they have, in fact, moved Proctor. They've moved him out of his current wherever he was, and they've moved him down to, I believe, I don't know the correct wordage, but South Boston now. He's in the South Boston field.
He's not in the field office. He's
according
at
to
he may report there, but
okay.
He's done. He's not working. He's not working anymore. He's not going to work. He's done. They're gonna.
He's in the rubber room.
Yeah, they're gonna go through the union process, but he's getting fired. The problem to me is that they're not addressing what he did. Like when he gives his PR statement, Colonel Mon, and he doesn't mention any of the other guys. There were other state police that were in on those text chains that laughed, like Buchanan, whatever you say his name, Yuri. There's a lot of problems. I mean, they should be looking at, like Mark said on our show, they should fumigate that whole Norfolk District Attorney Office, Mass State Police attached group there. They should get rid of them all.
100% agree with that. This amount of culture in a police force, it can only be fixed by starting from scratch. You can't keep the same leaders in these positions and expect the followers to turn out any different whatsoever. That's leadership 101.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
And someone was saying Lally's extension number doesn't work anymore at the DA's office, so that's another thing.
That could be security, though, for
maybe
they're afraid of
Yeah.
I bet you that's nothing.
it's all those conspiracies starting to go now because who ends up in Siberia manning the weather station up there? It's they have to clean house. They really have to do, because they can't just cut Proctor. And then we go back to, how do you retry this without Proctor? Trooper Paul was on those messages too, wasn't he? Bukhari was, their leader was what's his name? The guy who said,
Polly,
"Well, I
Polly.
reprimanded him." No, you
Totally.
didn't.
There you go.
Polly, yeah.
And Yuri laughed at one of them.
Well, that's a problem because Buchanan is the supervisor who also has an obligation to tell him don't do this, and instead he's encouraging it by laughing at it. And on top of that, he's, for all intents and purposes, Proctor's partner. He's telling the same story about the Sally Port. He's telling the same story about evidence revealing itself. So Buchanan, and he lied about the video. He lied about the Sally Port stuff. Let me tell you something. That's a huge problem for them at a retrial, even beyond Proctor, is Buchanan, who takes on, and he'll get crushed this time. You know, they weren't really ready to hit him with any of this the first time. They will destroy him the second time, irrespective of whether Proctor testifies or not. And the scary thing is, if Proctor had taken the fifth in the first trial, he probably is not yet disciplined at this level, because the way that their collective bargaining works, I mean, cop unions have the strongest, collective bargaining due process protection of anyone. The reason that they probably hadn't disciplined him before is because they were allegations, and he admitted it in court under oath. So they had enough to at least make findings official that he committed all kinds of misconduct. If he takes the fifth, that could be a violation also by not being cooperative with an official investigation. But that's a lesser offense than the text message problem that he had. So if he takes the fifth, I wonder if he's even at the level he is now, which is worse than he was before the first trial, which damages the DA even more for the second trial, if any of that makes any sense.
I almost wonder if they waited until he testified in order to get perjury charges on him, or in order to lay out more false statements that they can prove wrong in the federal case or in the internal affairs case.
Internal affairs, I think, definitely waited until they had conclusive proof. I mean, it sounds crazy, but the way they work, well, these text messages, how do we know if he sent them? Eventually they would agree that he did, but he makes it easy for them when he says under oath, yeah, I did it. I did everything that you say I did. So then he's going to get punished, and you could criticize him. Well, why did they wait till the end of the trial? And, Mike, we talked about this. There was no way they were going to do it during the trial. And I think 5 weeks ago, we said, give it 24 hours within the end of the trial, and he's on his way to termination. And he's clearly on his way.
Oh, yeah.
It'll take time, but he'll get his due process, and then he'll be sacked, clearly.
At the very least, sacked. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if he ends up in a jail cell before it's all said and done.
He might. No, he may have problems. I mean, he probably violated Karen Reed's civil rights federally, and certainly if they think he planted evidence, of course he did. I mean, if they think multiple people literally planted evidence, they're all going to get indicted if they have a case for that. And then God knows what else. I mean, who knows what else they're looking at and what they're going to find. But yeah.
I don't know much about this, I guess, but if the case moved to Barnstable County, Cape Cod, I know Bev would still be the judge, but do you think Lally would be replaced?
No, the DA's office would move with the case.
Yeah,
you'd be getting a new jury pool. That's it. So you'd be guaranteeing that you don't get anybody from Canton. You presumably get farther away from people who may be friends with these people that everyone's worried about, but you're not going to solve your judge and DA problem just by going down the road somewhere. Although it would be nice if it's a summer trial, if they really do it.
If they choose to
That would be
retry, do
brutal,
you think
though.
they will switch Lally to someone who can ask a question?
No, only because they let him do it the first time, which suggests that he's their guy, right? I mean, this is the case that in a DA's office, this is the big one. They're never going to get a bigger one, and they gave it to this guy, which, as crazy as it sounds to the five of us, he's the guy, right?
somehow.
He's the go-to guy. As ludicrous as this sounds, now maybe he says I'm done and just says I can't do this anymore, which is a different issue. And then I don't know what they would do. But
I wouldn't blame him for that, because I mean, I feel like it's like this is an unwinnable case. I mean, if you look at even the stuff with Proctor, now you have, not only is this an unwinnable case because of all of the doubt that exists even beyond all of the other stuff that's come out, but now you have, federal experts or experts hired by the feds that are saying their theory cannot work. It's not physically possible for their theory to work. And you have all of the evidence from the lead investigator that is now tainted and, behind a cloud of suspicion because it came from Proctor, who is now, now they see, the jury's going to see, okay, well, Norfolk County can't even trust him and had to, rehome him until, to Vermont. So that they can't even trust him. So how are they going to be able to? So not only do you have independent experts saying this can't happen, but now you have all the evidence that could be against her tainted, and it's an unwinnable case. So I wouldn't blame him if he were like, I'm not doing this again. I'm not putting myself or my mental health through this.
You're right. And it's only going to get worse because the feds are going to help the defense more any way they can, as long as they're not giving away their own store, but they're going to help in other ways. Like, I would fully expect the feds to lift the protective order that they put in place about not contacting the experts. Remember, that was kind of their even keeled thing, that they're going to lift that. And you know what's going to happen? Jackson and Yannetti are going to go talk to the ARCA guys and have a chance to actually prep them and ask them questions and not do it cold on the stand. And if they want to play the lally game and say, well, we're going to show you all this, can you tell us what this means? And they'll be ready for all that. Not that that came off bad. It didn't. But they'll be more ready. They're probably going to get more documents from the feds. They're going to get more leads from the feds. They're probably going to help them with the Sally Port, as long as it doesn't hurt their own federal investigation. And it's just going to get worse and worse and worse for these people. The defense investigators are going to go out. They may generate other witnesses. You heard about the PI who says he knew right away something happened in that house. Maybe he's a little more emboldened now to come forward. I don't know. I'm sure the feds are going to let them use their cell phone guy this time. Not that Dr. Green was terrible, but, in full fairness, was he great? Not really. Let's be honest. He seemed like a nice enough, earnest enough, but he seemed to lack some degree of just confidence in his opinions, if that's the right term. So, the feds are with them on the Google search, like, conclusively. So maybe they'll give them, the king of the FBI, forensic data analyst who can say, let me tell you what we did and why this is that. They're going to go out of their way to help the defense and end this, because they look a little silly too. I mean, I'm sure they're a little miffed by all of this. And
yeah,
100%.
Do you think that makes it more so that they'll act, like, in terms of, like, actually come in and swoop in and start throwing people in jail?
No, I mean, I don't think they're going to literally affect their own investigation judgment based upon being pissed off what happened. I mean, I think they'll do it if they feel it's warranted, and they won't do it if it's not. But that doesn't mean that they won't feel really motivated to, make Morrissey look like a clown in this whole fiasco. Yeah.
If they're there to investigate the corruption and the misconduct of the district attorney's office, well, while they have all the eyes and recordings on them, whatever the case may be, let them do just that. Let them commit misconduct. Let them commit malpractice and everything else, so that they've got all the proof laid out in front of them. I guess that would be the approach I would take if I were the feds.
I mean, it's really interesting because you just heard from the testimony at this trial, did you testify in another proceeding? We all know what that means. It means one of two things. They either gave statements to FBI agents or they testified in a federal grand jury. And they all apparently agreed to do that. And yet they all apparently agreed to testify without taking the fifth or anything in this case. And if the feds know things that expose the testimony that you heard in this case as false, then, that gives them a lot more ammunition. And particularly somebody like Higgins, who kind of twisted himself into a knot. And then, of course, you get to Proctor, which is, is he now, if he's kind of marginalized, does he feel, lonely and maybe wants to make some new friends and kind of, if I'm going down, kind of hug anyone in my immediate proximity over the cliff with me? I don't know, but I can tell you this, it won't be as good for him as it would have been a month ago if he didn't perjure himself in this case. So whatever he thinks he wants to play ball with the feds is not going to be as sweet for him as it would have been if he didn't do what he did a month ago.
No, but do you think because the feds don't give a flying F about this case, it's just a murder case, they can figure that one out. But you could use a guy like Proctor to get to Morrissey. Don't you think they are leaning on him really heavy? Both him and Higgins clearly perjured themselves, and perjure yourself in front of the state. Yeah, that's fine because that'll be Morrissey pressing charges. Ain't gonna happen. But there will be some glowies in his house tonight saying, "Do you remember what you told us? And now you told us this on the road. We just need to know what's going on at the DA's office. You will lend out to the DA's office. If you could sing on Morrissey, yeah, we'll find some way to figure out how you get your pension. You'll still lose your job, but
see, Buchanan did too. Buchanan said things on the stand too, and I know a lot of people didn't catch this because the testimony he talked about was so many years ago, like 50, 11 years ago when this trial started. But he did the same thing. He said things that were untrue on the stand. One of the things that he said was that that he was told that this was involved a pedestrian strike by a vehicle because he was told that by I think it was Good, maybe is the one he said that told him that it was a pedestrian strike. But then I went back and looked at Good's testimony, and Good is like, no, I never heard her say that. I never said that. Right. So he's not the only, like, the two main ones. I mean, Proctor's a big problem on his own, but even when you start getting into Buchanan and stuff, like those same problems that you're talking about with him apply to him too. So it's baffling.
But let me also give one thing. If there were state charges to be pursued, it would not be Morrissey because the conflict of interest is too great. I mean, they literally work in his office. So presumably it would be a special prosecutor brought from another county. And you better believe if they came in, they're going to come swashbuckling and be looking for scalps. And, they're not impacted by this whole disgusting Norfolk.
No, but there was so many during the case saying, they're getting perjury charges. No, most likely they won't. But if they will be perjury charges, it will be the feds, and the feds are really smart. They will use those threats of perjury to get what they want, and they don't care about. To be honest, they don't care about Karen Reed or John O'Keefe. They care about taking down Morrissey, most likely, because there's a weird thing going on between the local part of the feds.
Yeah, I think you're right, but Karen Reed is the vessel to do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
it could be Birchmore. It could be the Walls case. It could be whatever.
But what I would think is that, and I don't know what the feds have done or what they plan to do, but they would start coming after some of these little fish, some of these kids who testified false.
The Colin Alberts, the
I'm thinking
Nagel girl.
The Nagel. I'm thinking she's
Kristen
like
Morris, maybe. Yeah,
she's exactly the one. To be honest with you, in my head,
Julie Nagel.
I mean, she gave testimony that I think any sane person would say is really troubling. It was clearly crafted. It was clearly pressured into by someone because it evolved each time. And then there's that little nugget of, Jennifer McCabe said, I need to look at your text messages, which makes no sense to anybody. So if you start with someone like her, and assuming she plays ball because she doesn't want to ruin her life over this kind of stuff, well, who was involved in potentially influencing her? And if it turned out to be the Proctor types, that's more information to get to him. And who does Proctor lead to? Like you said, potentially that leads to people in the DA's office, which I think would be the Moby Dick of this operation. I mean, literally and figuratively, Morrissey is the great white whale in this whole process.
Well, and he's been running that county for what, 50 years or something insane since the 70s, right?
I mean, he's been involved in politics of one nature or another, but I think he's only been DA for like 14 years. But he was, I think he was in the House or state representative. He's just been your typical Massachusetts classic political hack who's never had a job in the private sector in his life and never will. I mean, but that's like the way Massachusetts has always been.
That's this Mr. Meat Hook. That amazes me. That absolutely amazes me. 5 friends live on Cape Cod. They all say Karen Reed is guilty. That is
in Brewster. That's shameful. I used to go on vacation in Brewster. I love.
I was gonna say I'd be worried about taking it to Barnstable County or it's a weird area. I would not want it tried there. I think it's
well. Where to push that further? Where do you go? Right at this point, everybody's seen this.
I would go Western Mass if you're going to go anywhere.
Springfield's the only place I could see this being moved where you could make a credible argument because you're out of the Boston market. All the counties in Massachusetts basically surround Boston. It's the same media. It's the same problem. Springfield is the only one that's kind of a little different. It would just be a more miserable experience for everyone because it's Springfield. It's not exactly Boston, but even though they get access to that kind of media, it is a little different.
Apparently, I hit 4,000 subs, so that's awesome. Thank you guys. You all rock. And panel, thank you so much for being here.
Well, we can leave now, so then. Bye.
Yeah.
No, but do you think? Now I'm going to do a Lallyism. What, if anything, do you think Lally will change? He needs to get this 8-week trial cut down to 1 week.
Yeah.
I think one of the things he needs to do is keep out some of the witness. Like, we don't need to hear from every single person who's ever been at Waterfall, to come in and give all of that redundant stuff. And I think, was it you, Mark, that was saying on a different panel that we were on together that you were saying bringing them in, if you're going to bring them in, have the defense, force the defense to do it so that way, the line of questioning is different because it's the,
direct first cross. Yeah.
Right.
So, but I think he has to start higher. The first thing you do is you dismiss the murder count. It's just it's too much.
It's too much.
If you just it's a bridge too far. You don't seem credible. And also, if you do that, now you get rid of all this Aruba nonsense. Mm-hmm. You get rid of all the jealous girlfriend nonsense. You get rid of the text messages and the phone calls. Okay, so now you've just cut out probably a week just from that alone or more. You definitely do what Brandy just said. This 20 witnesses from the Waterfall. My God, it's just ridiculous. But also, you try your case, not defend like you're saying against the other one. And if the defense wants to argue that it happened in the house, then you make them call those witnesses and then let them direct Brian Albert. That's tough. He's a tough cookie. I mean, he was demeanor wise, he was pretty good witness. Some of his testimony didn't make any sense, but he was very calm, very cooperative, very grandpa looking in his little cardigan, didn't get excited. So, give you another example. Imagine if you had to do a direct examination of Jennifer McCabe and you're the defense. It's almost impossible. Because you can't lead them. You have to let them speak. And if you allow someone like her to speak, so I think they would do that. And who knows if the defense would go all in with, what happened in the house. I think they might have, oversold that a little bit, given what the evidence that supported it. I don't think they needed to go that far. So, yeah, I think you cut out all the bar, you cut out all those people, you trim down the murder case, and, you have a much quicker case. You get rid of Trooper Paul, although you're stuck with him to some extent, but he's not an expert. But the other thing is, if they're going to try the case, if they're dead serious, there's something they have to do, which I don't think they're ever going to get, which is another reason why they can't try the case, which is a real expert who's willing to look at the ARCA report, look at those witnesses and say, I can help you out. Those guys have it wrong. And if they can't do that, then they need to dismiss the whole thing because they're never going to win.
Moving the trial, I think, has some amount of risk to it, but any trial has risk to it, right? I think you have to at this point. I think There's no way you can keep it in the district it's in.
Oh, I would move it. If I'm the DA, I might want to move too, to tell you the truth. But yeah, no, I would move it because that way you guarantee nobody from Canton on the jury, guaranteed. If you think that there are Albert sympathizers or whatever, you lessen that. And also for the defense, it's going to be a road game anyway, right? I mean, 2 of the 3 lawyers live in California. They're going to have to schlep back anyway. But you know what? If you move it to Springfield, Lally, get yourself a hotel room. Let him experience trying a case on the road. It sucks. Okay. I just did it. It's horrible. It impacts you. It's much easier when you're in your home court. You know everything. You're in your comfort zone. It's a real advantage or disadvantage depending on who you are. So why not try to haul him out to Springfield and let him live in a hotel room like everyone else?
Can the defense on the next trial try to keep up the site visit to 34 Fairview in the car? That seemed 1 wrong and 2 extremely prejudicial.
Well, they wanted it.
I disagree with the comment.
I need people to see that front lawn because Mark went out there and said, when you see it with your eyes, you realize, and that's the thing I've been wanting from the defense, more demonstratives. I'm a visual learner. I like it, and especially seeing how small that front lawn is. I think it could sway some people.
And the damage to the car or lack of damage to the car. Right. Like, think about just the videos. I mean, I haven't seen the car in person, obviously, but we've seen the videos of them, walking around as the reporters were looking at it and stuff. Think about the lack of damage to that car. And when they're talking about these, that this is a 24.2 miles per hour 24.5 if you go by whatever. Lally changes everything. He doesn't know his own details. But if you go by what they have presented, the 24.2 miles per hour, people will think about their own personal experiences with things, right? So like you'll automatically think about like that one time that your granny hit a deer coming home from bingo, or you're like what you think about the damage that you've seen to cars done in any kind of accident that you've had before, and then you're looking at this car and you're like, that's not a lot of damage. That's just a tail light, So I think that having that visual to see where there are, there is like that small little dent and like the little scratch or whatever, but it's not this massive damage that you would be expecting. And I think that it does do them good to see that and the yard. When you see some of those videos, that one video that whoever put it out into the internet streets, when they're pulling out of the driveway and then driving forward, and you can see how clearly visible that space is, that's kind of a big deal. When you look at Google Maps or whatever, when you go to Google Street View and you're kind of, nosing around over there, it's like a wide angle lens, and it looks a lot different than if you actually see the people who are driving by and showing how small it is. So I think that some of that stuff is really beneficial.
I think that's the important part there, right? The important part is that they saw that those people walking out of that front door should have seen the body if there was one laying in the lawn. They should have heard it. The dog should have heard the noise and excitement going on out there.
There's no question. The yard is shockingly tiny. I mean, I was stunned. But if they should do it again. But here's the thing. If I'm the defense, I'm arguing not as early that they, like Lally, if you remember this, when they went there real early, it was also batting out of order. It was nothing that he was doing about the car at the time of the case. It just kind of showed up in the middle of like the first responder testimony. And that had to be very tactical, because at the time they went to visit the crime scene, nobody is thinking, well, the Alberts couldn't have, how did they not hear this? How did they not see that? I would be arguing, if I'm the defense, if we're going to do a visit, that it come much later, or at least that they get more input, so that the jury, when they go there, Lally says, oh, I want you to look at the car and I want you to look at the console. If I'm looking at the jury, no, you want to look at the windows that are 10 feet away from the flagpole is what you want to be looking at. And the curb spit on from the windows, it looked like. So
yeah,
but you definitely want to go to the scene for sure as the defense. No question.
Yeah, because it's shockingly small. And again, if they had come in with that visit after the Alberts were sitting there saying, we didn't hear anything and the dog didn't bark, then, because when I heard that thing with who was it? Was it Caitlin who said something about picking up the dog, and then that was a stray dog they found in the middle of
That
the
was
road?
Allie McCabe.
Allie,
She
yeah.
on the way
Allie
home,
McCabe.
they went to the cops with a homeless dog in the snowstorm. Yes.
Yeah. That sounded kind of like we have. Oh, someone might have seen us with a dog. We need to get Chloe out of the house because we had a little. You could really put some things in the head of the jury.
That
if you
reeked
talk
of
about that.
Yeah.
I didn't even catch that when it was happening. That's a great point, actually.
It was so weird. It reeked.
It was weird.
It was super weird when she was saying it. I was like, I didn't understand why she was telling that story. But yeah, like an alibi for getting Chloe out of there. That makes perfect sense, actually.
And didn't Jennifer McCabe said that there was no barking dog when she walked in the house?
Yeah,
Yeah,
she said she doesn't recall
So maybe
seeing.
the dog was gone. I mean, that makes total sense that they took that dog out of there.
It just attacked someone. There was other people at the house. I don't think everyone was at the house because all of a sudden, that's another thing that Julie, when you said that about getting the squeeze on her, why did she leave suddenly an hour after she said, "I'm gonna stay here all night"? That to me, that was one of those.
She wanted a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
a lot of testimony about that peanut butter and jelly
I mean,
sandwich.
there's also like, I'm not saying this is true, obviously. I don't want to get in trouble, but there's also that rumor that Ryan Nagel was delivering something. I mean, think about it. That could also be a possibility too. I mean, he looks, I don't know.
That could very
something
well
about,
be a possibility.
yeah, you know. I mean, look
Yeah.
at the way they all
Speculating
acted with Turtle Boy the other day. They look like a gang. They look like a
Right.
little gang hanging out in front of D&E. So, I mean, I've always ignored that kind of talk, but who knows? Who knows? Who knows
Yeah.
why Ryan was actually showing up? Maybe maybe it wasn't a ride.
I've heard that from a lot of people, and it's one of those things. Like I kind of do the same. Like I try to even from a lot of the locals who are in contact with me about different things. Like I've heard that from so many people. So it's kind of it's one thing that I've never reported on. I've never put it in a podcast because you don't know what's true and what's not.
Yeah.
But that has been a very big part of why people, a big part of how people have explained certain things that happened that night. I think that one thing if they do retry this, I think that one of the things that has been hardest for people to wrap their head around is the conflicting data with the GPS data points not showing that he went in the house. I think that when you mentioned like kind of overselling the basement thing and all of that, I think that is one of the things that is going to be the hardest for them, because it's like anytime we're seeing, and think about this, these are not people who are following trials all the time that are on this jury. These are people who maybe have seen episodes of CSI, whatever, but they are not people who are following this all of the time. So I think that people have this belief that when you see the data, that's going to be your explanation. And so when they're seeing data that conflicts with the defense's theory, then even aside from Crash Daddies, just talking about like just the cell phone stuff, I think that can be hard for people to grasp. And I think that part of it's hard for like all of us to grasp, usually if I'm not seeing that. I think that if it were me, and I'm not an attorney and I don't know anything, I just have like a little computer and I YouTube, and that's all I do, but and podcast. But if it were me, I think that instead of going through the basement thing, I believe that something else happened, but I don't know what it was, and I don't know that it was in the basement.
No.
I would focus on something else happened in that yard or whatever, or something, or somewhere in that area when he arrived or shortly after he arrived or at some point, and I would leave out the whole basement thing, because I think that is hard for people to understand when that's conflicting.
I think you're right. And let me just preface this by saying I love these lawyers. Like they are top shelf. And I mean, I like love watching them work and sponging off them and talking to them about different things. And these are like A+ lawyers. Having said that, reasonable lawyers can have a different view of how to do different things. And I think there was an oversell in hindsight on trying to establish what actually happened, because that for two reasons. Number one, they had no evidence, real evidence of it. And number two, you are kind of taking on a burden that you not take on, not legally, but the jury thinks so. But it wouldn't have impacted them if they had simply said, look, Karen Reed didn't do it. And you know that because there's no car accident. Okay. So like, that's a fact. And then you say, that also means that the taillight had to have been planted because it could not have cracked in that way. That's a fact. Okay. You know that Proctor is a piece of garbage, corrupt, that's a fact. All you need to do is look at his text messages and Buchanan, and they claim they found evidence. It doesn't make any sense. You know that he said, don't worry about Brian Albert. He's a Boston cop. That's a fact. You know that McCabe's and Alberts are all covering up something. You're right. I don't know what. Something from the butt dials, the phone records, the phone calls. And you could say it's not something innocent. That's a fact. You know, a couple of days later, tell them the guy never went in the house. They're digging in the Asian guy's yard. What is Kerry saying? This is all weird. They're covering up and nervous about something. And if you wrap that around, you know that Karen Reed couldn't have done it. Somebody else had to have done it. He's dead in the middle of the lawn. Who are the logical people that could have done that? And you get it all out. You're not overselling. The GPS data becomes, like you said, much less important. And the jury's still saying, well, it had to be any one of these types of people. And you're not having an argument over, like you said, the GPS shows they never went in the house. So I think if they get a chance or have to recalibrate this, that it becomes less of a sell.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if you're telling them what to think, people have a harder time accepting it. So I think that being so specific on their theory of what happened is going to make it harder for a jury to accept, and it does shift some of that burden. I think and it's not supposed to. It's not supposed to, but it does.
It does.
Yeah. So I think it's harder for them to accept the whole thing. So I think if you do exactly that, you focus on that, because there's plenty of information that is given to them that shows, that points toward her being not guilty. And if you focus on that and not try to fill in so hardcore on some of those holes to fill it in for the jury, let them come up with their own theories based on this. And they don't have to solve it. They just have to know that something else shady happened. And this is what points to that.
And that's the key. There is so much evidence that this group of people are acting in a manner which is clearly incriminating to themselves, and they are clearly covering something up. And they can still make the frame argument, which is different than he was killed in the house by these people because of this. Now, you could still offer the dog bite evidence and say, is that consistent with this? But locking it down to the basement, locking it down to Colin Albert, and I agree. In hindsight, it's clear that might be giving them a lifeline that the DA didn't deserve.
Yeah.
Personally, I think they need to not bring up the third party culprit. Just go with the car not hitting John, the experts only, etc.
Yeah, like the Bowden, as opposed to third party, I think would be plenty for them.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't argue in a literal sense like we need a jury instruction on third party culprit, but the reality is the argument that we're having now, or the hypotheticals that Brandy and I are talking about, are for all intents and purposes arguing third party culprit. It wasn't her. And but you start that with saying, ladies and gentlemen, it could not have been Karen Reed in an SUV. That science tells you that, which is why I mean, we said this the other night too, I think. That's where I would have started the summation, that you connect the dots from car accident, which means taillight broken another way, which means planted, which means Proctor, which means text messages, which means butt dials in this. And you say, there is no way this woman is guilty.
Yeah.
No, but will Lally, because Lally needs to model the waters because the science is so clear. So will he not try and throw all these wrenches into the system to make them? They have to spend time on all this crap, because again, we spent 7 weeks before John O'Keefe's possible departure was discussed, talking about weather, band members, drinking habits, and take Brian Higgins out of the picture, because do you need him? No. We spent how much time talking about that magical Jeep that all of a sudden appeared? Lally will try and put as much weirdness into the case because he can't run a case on the merits. He needs the distractions.
Well, that was his whole strategy for the case, right? Just flood you with facts, and hopefully you can't parse through them and figure out which was real and which wasn't.
Yeah. It was overwhelming, and there was so much time spent on the defense that he provided for Jen McCabe and Brian and Colin and Higgins, and there was so much time spent on that it's like it starts becoming one of those things where it's like, okay, whose trial are we watching and what are we waiting to hear? And we heard all about things that were happening, but like you said, before they even ever mentioned how he passed, or even their theory of it. We didn't even get a real actual clear theory of what they said happened until what week?
Closing statements was the last theory we heard.
They did not prove that there was a homicide. They did not prove that Karen Reed or any other human being was the cause of John O'Keefe's death. I mean, that's how crazy this is.
Yeah.
Victor Fournier. I'm not. I don't remember personally. But he asked the motor RPM never got over 1400.
I think it hit 3,600 at some point, which would indicate it was just slipping on the road.
That's what I thought that was. I thought it hit a patch of ice or snow and
because it had the throttle at 75%, and then the RPMs shot up and went down again. So those key cycle indicated some snow being under the wheels, but again, that was more of that look over here. Because what did that prove? Because then you started counting, and you could see there was at least 5 cycles that wasn't there, if we were to believe what they said happened that day. So,
well, they eventually gave up on the key cycles and tried to say, look at the mileage and where they went, and tried to literally argue against themselves. They spent the first time saying the key cycles are everything. And after this guy twisted himself into a pretzel, it became, well, the mileage from A to B to C must be, the 34 Fairview. I mean, they obviously they can't do that again. The way that came out with this witness was just atrocious.
It was so much atrocious. Rubio watched it with me and Baker because it was fun chat. It was fun. Hit the sub button and like to. Thank you, Rubio. Love you. Oh, that was already... Never mind. I apologize. I already pulled that up. Let's get to some of these other questions if we can. They voted not guilty on the second-degree murder charge and were hung on the others. Shouldn't the others have been dropped with the not guilty? So this is a rumor that's been floating around the last day or so, right? There's no way that could be the case. That's illegal as F. If they find them innocent of one charge, that charge gets dismissed, and they can't ever charge her with that again because that's what double jeopardy is.
But they didn't do that because they didn't come back and say we found her not guilty in something, and then if you're hung, you're hung.
Right.
It's like being
on
pregnant.
All of it.
You're not a little pregnant.
Well, it's a little more than that. There could have been a partial. I mean, they could have found her not guilty on one count.
But what I'm saying they didn't. We can't infer because someone said they might have done it.
Oh, totally agree with you that we think they didn't, because one of the interesting welcome to the world of Norfolk County Superior Court, when they came back and said we were hung and this and that, nobody clarified on everything or not. And it was just assumed we're hung, we're done, and we have the crazy verdict sheet. And that's probably accurate. We all assume that that's the case. But the scary thing is, how do we know? I mean, what the judge probably should have done when they came back with the first note and said, we're deadlocked, and she just sent them back, she should have reminded them there, just to be clear, you need to clarify, what your verdict is. I mean, she's not going to say non-verdict to try to encourage them not to reach a verdict, but, we need to know on each thing what you're doing. And then they come back and say, well, we're hung. presumably it means on everything. If these rumors turn out to be, well, we meant to say this, but we didn't know, now you have a fiasco.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
I
you
can't
have a
remember what
fiasco.
bad problem. Yeah.
I can't remember
Wow.
what trial it was that happened recently, but there was one that it was kind of like that. They had whatever the different charges was. It was like like maybe murder was the first one, and then it was whatever the other ones were. It wasn't like a lesser version of that charge, but it was separate charges. So there was different counts, and whatever it was, I can't remember which one it was. I wish I did, but whatever it was, the lesser charges. I think the guy was convicted on all of those, but they hung on the murder charge. So when he was I think the other one's like weapons charges and whatever else. But so he was either whatever he was convicted and acquitted on the other ones. I can't remember what it was. The murder charge was hung. So when he was retried, he was only retried for that charge because they did give their answers
Right.
for those.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah.
yeah. So if they didn't, so if they like they said if they were saying that the murder 2 is completely out, that should have been, if that one was completely out and that's the one thing they agreed on, that's a huge, like, what word did you use? Fiasco. If
Snafu.
if that wasn't specified, because then that means that they
There's a lot
can
of
retry
You know
that.
this. The military guy knows all this. Situation normal is all effed up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, but do you think, look, if the defense thinks that there's any like merit to this, and look, this is like internet stuff, I get it, and sources in the courthouse. What they'll do if they give this any merit is they will attempt to locate the jurors and interview them. And if they get a juror or two to tell them, yeah, I thought we acquitted on that, they get a sworn affidavit from one or two jurors, then they come back to court and they wave those around and say, we have a serious problem here. All of this, of course, should be meaningless if Lally or Morrissey has a brain, if they're really going to retry the case, because they really should not retry the murder anyway. It would make all,
And keep in mind, they all are very aware that the feds are investigating the situation. They're not going to take that risk.
Yeah.
I don't believe. I don't think they would.
I don't know. They're zombies, though. They just keep you can't put them down. You blast them, they fall down, and then they get up and they just keep coming.
So terrifying.
Norfolk County zombies.
Oh,
Zombie
Be a new
prosecutors
baseball team.
because you can't shame them, you can't humiliate them. They don't care about their own credibility. It's when you have an adversary in court like this, you assume that like they value their credibility and want to be fair, and that's kind of like their weakness, right? But when they turn out to be zombies, you don't know what to do because they just keep coming no matter what you do.
If it is a new trial, can the defense try to refile some of their pretrial motions regarding witnesses, etc.? Yeah, it's a new trial, new ball game, right?
Well, what kind of motions? I guess it depends. I mean, you're not going to be able to like relitigate a suppression motion. That's resolved. I mean, the rulings are generally the same unless there's something new. I mean, I'm not sure what kind of witnesses, what is meant by that. I mean, the answer.
Well, I guess that would be a good clarification. You can refile. It doesn't mean that you're going to get a different.
Yeah, if you get the same judge,
outcome.
he's not going to. Yeah. I
Right.
mean, it's going to be Bev Canoni. So, I mean,
Well,
he's
even
already decided it.
even if you got a different trial judge, though, who like you think is more favorable, they have this nasty concept called the law of the case, which is this concept that if you move to a new judge, you can't forum shop and say, okay, here come all my motions. If it's a judge of the same level, the rulings track. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't like
You accept what's already happened.
Yeah, you can't forum shop for a better judge and overrule everything unless there's a reason to do it other than the first judge is an idiot and I like you better.
Can they go for DNA for matching for the pants? From
I think the
Higgins,
testimony was that there was an insufficient sample to even make a comparison. So I think it's lost in terms of scientific value.
because they stated there was 2 unknown males, and the only one they tested it up against was Proctor and Higgins. Could they make a motion and say, well, we would really like Proctor and Bukakny, we would really like Brian Albert's DNA?
I think the problem with that you would run into, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I thought they could not literally
get enough.
test the two mixtures, the minority contributors to the mixtures, because there was just not enough concentrated DNA.
I believe that's correct.
Now, if that's correct, if you filed a motion to say, give me Brian Albert's DNA, the judge is going to say, for what? This is not 1984. We don't just take DNA. You don't even have anything to test it to. Even if you could test it, they would fight you like hell. And I'm not sure what a judge would do. I mean, you could make a pretty good faith argument that, we need to know, and they would say this is too specious. There's no evidence we did anything. But yeah, I would make that motion if there was a sufficient sample, but I think it would be denied out of hand if there's no comparison.
And you, lady in the back, hopefully that answered your question there. Hopefully. Can Massachusetts taxpayers do anything to stop the continuous inappropriate prosecution of people police and Commonwealth don't like, even if they don't commit crime? Vote, y'all. You got to get in your local elections. You got to start voting small time.
You can vote.
You have to vote. Sir.
Or move.
Yes, those are the two options. Those are.
There you go.
No one else.
We're done here.
You can vote, move, or submit. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was living in Illinois and chose to move, and now live in East Tennessee, where things are amazing, and I get left alone.
And everyone else started moving when you moved in.
Well, I got here first. They can all go away.
Yeah, but it's the old saying: be the change you want. Because if you do what most people do, sit down and say, "Well, Papa voted this way, I'm going to do it," and this time the politician won't lie to me. He will lie to you the next time too, because he knows you don't care about what you're voting about. So it's as a person who's been 20 years in local politics, the only way to change it is to change everything. It doesn't matter that you just, it's not important. I'll vote all red, all blue, all libertarian, all whatever it is. It depends on the person. Look at who's the best person for the job.
That's it right there. Best person for the job.
Yes, and that is the way to do it, right? Don't vote party. Don't vote for your best interest and the best interest of your neighbors.
I mean, I'm a liberal, and if there's a good Republican running against Morrissey, I'm voting Republican. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's the key on this. This race, if he runs again, I don't think he's going to run again. But and if anyone's an attorney in Norfolk County, maybe consider running. Like, we need candidates to run against him when it comes.
Yeah, if at this point, after seeing everything that Morrissey's done in the last couple of years, if he runs unopposed again, I would be extremely disappointed in Massachusetts and in Norfolk County, personally.
Yeah, no, there'll be opponents, definitely.
Well, he won't have,
no doubt about it.
He probably won't have like the party machine behind him as much, at least as much as he used to. I mean, there'll be some dissent there, I would think.
I would think. Can Lally say no?
If he has ethics, yes.
He can get sick.
He can.
With all the coffin nails he's been having out in the parking lot, he has the black lungs now.
It's a lot of lung darts over the course of a 7-week trial. Ooh.
He certainly doesn't have enough hair to do this trial over again. He's going to be as bald as Trooper Paul if he does this trial again. Did you guys see that side by side with all the hair he lost?
No.
Lally?
Yeah. Oh my God. There's a side by side photo out there of him before and after the trial.
No
he
way.
lost so much hair over the course of 9 weeks.
I didn't notice.
That's
wow.
crazy.
It's
I mean, it's not
insane.
surprising. By the way,
not at all.
whatever you think of him, which is admittedly not much by a lot of us, myself included, the idea that he, in essence, tried a case of this complexity and magnitude alone speaks so poorly of that office. I mean, we used to try cases, with 2 or 3 people, and it was 10% of what this was. I can't believe that they would literally make this guy on his own. And I'm not talking about the appeals assistant who argues, 2 motions over the course of 7 weeks, but the amount of work that guy had to do, whatever you think of him, is just insane on his own. And was there nobody that they had in there that could help him out?
I do have to give him a little bit of credit. He, the strategy worked, right? He didn't get, he drew, right? He got a draw in the end and just overwhelming the jury was his strategy, clearly, and it seemed to be effective. So I got to give him credit. He's not an incompetent attorney, although, you know, he's horrible at asking questions.
Among other things.
Among other things, yes. Massachusetts State Police did not have the DNA profiles of Yuri and Proctor. Only Bode Labs did. State Police could not do a comparison of the DNA samples. Valhalla, I lived in Kendall County until 2009.
Yeah, they can't just take DNA that they have on file and, you know, run around testing it. I mean, even when they have legitimate DNA samples, there are so many restrictions, even for a suspect in a crime, oftentimes. It's the whole, again, Orwellian concern about your genetic material being on file and being compared to anything and everything that, you know, your right to privacy, obviously, and your inner genetic material is as high as anything.
Isn't that kind of common though for troopers or cops to be DNA'd as a, what's the word I'm looking for, to exclude them,
to rule them out?
They always give exclusion samples in a crime scene that they go near, under the theory that if they touched it, they need to, you know, elimination samples, they would call it. Yeah, they do that, but then they get destroyed. Like, they don't get compared.
They don't put it on file.
They don't put it in like what they call the CODIS system, which is like the national, one of the national, you know, and then they get a hit for like he committed a murder in Montana 7 years ago and now he's a police officer. Like, they don't.
Well, wouldn't that, I wonder if that would be an approach that they could use in this case, right? Seeing as they're all cops, couldn't they do the exclusionary tests for this specific case?
No, because you will violate their civil rights if you say, well, technically you were all at the scene. No,
yeah,
because Brian Higgins were never near his body. Brian Albert was never near his body.
You can't do like DNA dragnets, like they call them. And even if there are real restrictions and there's no cause, there's no suspicion that any particular police officer or anyone else would be a suspect. So I mean, it's the DNA isn't going to, and it's not going to do anything anyway, because there's nothing to compare it to. I mean, I think the sad thing is the case was killed forensically within a couple of hours of the death. I mean, they didn't secure the crime scene. We know about all the stuff in the snow, and you know how Buchanan and Proctor stored John O'Keefe's clothes. I mean, they just killed any forensic value in the case is just gone.
Thank you all. Do you think it would make a difference if the jury explicitly heard the FBI hired accident reconstructionist / had their own trial? I absolutely do.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think it would. And
why they don't let them.
That's exactly why they won't let them, because it's prejudicial.
But also, I think that if they do go into the second trial, like if they do have a second trial, think about how different that testimony could be. Because as bombshell as it was to hear, like, yeah, bro, this ain't happening. This is not how this is not how physics works. As bombshell as that was, think about how differently it can be approached when you have now the opportunity to speak to them beforehand, and you can go through all that stuff. Okay, Lally's going to say, what did you know that the DNA was on, you know, the taillight? Did you know that there was a hair? Did you know this and this and this? Yep. So you have the opportunity to go over all of these things with him and go ahead and tackle that part head on, so that you can go through that in your questioning. Would it have made a difference if this and this and this? Okay, can you explain why not? And then that way you're ruling out any kind of question that there could be about them not having all of the sufficient evidence. Because even though we hear him say, a hair doesn't change physics, or, you know, DNA, it wasn't on the inside of the taillight housing, it was on the outside, and that still doesn't change physics. Even though we're hearing that, if they had been able to walk through that during the direct when Jackson was questioning him, I think it could have made everything so much more clear, so that when Lally got up there and started asking questions, then it was like, this has already been covered. You know, sit down, Lally. You're not going to change anybody's mind. It's physics.
I agree with that 100%.
And another thing, we all saw that Paul. Did I ask that Paul walked out yesterday, said something apparently quite nasty to Karen. Can he be excluded from the courtroom the next time?
It was more than Turtle Boy did when he got witness intimidation. If you really think about it,
the reality is the trial would be in months anyway, and so they're going to say it cooled down, assuming there were no other incidents. But I mean, his behavior is an issue, and it's tough because on the one hand, my brother was killed. We think she did it, whatever. But on the other hand, these stares, these comments, I mean, there comes a point where it's just not appropriate. And, yesterday, if he really said, I'm not through with you or whatever that is, that could be interpreted as a threat. I mean, that could result in a police report kind of thing. No question. So, I mean,
especially given the circumstances.
Yeah.
She's a suspect in a murder case of his brother. I mean, it's not
Right.
like they're not arguing over a broken fence post or
That's
mailbox or something.
Yeah, no, that's certainly ratcheted it up more than, the concern that already existed. That's another level of intimidation that is a problem.
What about the other witnesses, like Alberts and McCabe sitting there in the gallery? Do you think that would ever be like? It seemed like that was an issue for a lot of people. A lot of people felt like that swayed the jury. Do you think the defense would ever ask that they not be allowed to sit there?
Can you excuse me for just a couple of minutes, Joe?
They're members of the public.
Yeah, I mean, unless they're on the witness list, that's why they weren't there during the trial, because you can exclude a witness from the trial. But once the evidence was closed, unless you have something specific, they can do, the Frankie Pentangeli intimidation tour. I mean, they can do it. It really is, him sitting with Don Corleone and his wife staring at the witness. They can do it.
Yeah.
I love when we get a little Godfather in here. Who's that man sitting back there?
And then what should happen is then Jackson will get up and say, this committee owes him an apology, Senator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a great trick to play, but again, it just shows how bad this case is. And I wrote it on Twitter the other day. I can't remember a case since JD and AH that has been so dividing between people. I get hate. I covered a case out of Atlanta where a white girl put some extra air holes in an old black guy because she thought she did a citizen's arrest. And because I said, I think she's stupid, I think she should never have done it. But the evidence that if they were fighting over the gun, as she said, it wasn't disproven. And so it could be in self-defense. Once or twice a week, I get, you're such a racist because I think that it's the same I do in this case. But in this case, everyone is so one-sided or other. Brandy, you got hate because you didn't want to go in here with a predetermined notion of what you thought. And I don't know why this case is so. We've seen tons of cases, but this case really kicks something. I think it's a weird case.
It is. I think that there's multiple reasons for that. And people have taken this case and they have emotional attachments to it. And I can understand why some of the not guilty have that emotional attachment, because it's, and I said this the other night on Kent Confidential. I think one of the things that first brings our attention to it is that it's a female murder defendant. That's like 10 to 15% of, accused murderers are women. So that already is kind of like, an attention grabber. And plus she's very attractive and the victim is very attractive. Plus he's like this Boston cop who has, the heart of gold and took in these kids in the face of tragedy. And so that is automatically going to have people, being more invested in this. But then on top of that, you have this sense of almost like people on their soapbox, like this moral righteousness, for the people who say that she's guilty. And I've never seen anything like it, to where people are so invested. And even before the trial, the people who say that she is guilty are the people who said she was guilty before the trial. It's not the people who watched the trial and then came to that decision. It's the people who've been saying it since beforehand. And I think that shows you everything you need to know. This is all about the emotions behind it. And it's almost like, because, some of the rest of us are saying like, wait, let's stop for a minute, because look, there's this and this and this that raises doubt, and she has the presumption of innocence. It's almost like there's that sense of, how dare you, because I say she's guilty because I care about victims, and you say she's not because you're a terrible person and you like kick puppies in your off time and stuff. Like, everything is, you're like a terrible person and with horrible morals because you want to really weigh the evidence and discuss this and talk about there being this other theory that could potentially be true, and there being doubt that she's the one that's guilty. And I think that so many people have latched on to the theory that they're going with, that there's nothing that you can say and none of the evidence that could come out. Even we saw it with Crash Daddies come out and they're like, yeah, physics, and they're like, oh, but they didn't know everything, and it's crazy the amount of of vitriol that people spew, and they do it in the name of victim advocacy or in the name of John O'Keefe or whoever.
You're 100%. You're so right, because look at also how they personalize the anger and the judgment of Karen Reed, who says, I'm innocent. That's her position. I'm innocent. And of course, there's a lot of evidence which would support that. And all the people who, like you said, believe she's guilty have always believed that. I have yet to see a single person who's switched the other way, who watched what was going on and said, well, I came in with a presumption of innocence or thought she's innocent, and now I'm listening and say she's guilty. So, but then they
I have to correct you. 2 of the ladies who was interviewed yesterday.
Good
right,
point.
But
I don't think it's I think it's about what's going on in Canton, number one, for the not guilty people.
Right.
Like, we've watched so many of the not guilty people. We've watched women be threatened. We've watched the select board shut down public comment. We've seen letters sent in the mail. Like, just all kinds of awful things have happened. People have been charged for protesting. Like, just simply carrying a sign. Like, so the not guilty people feel this kind of pushback and harm happening to people. We've watched. I think that's why people on the not guilty side are invested. The guilty side, it's not about their beliefs. It's because they're either McAlberts, they're either personally invested in these people, these benefits that they get from being part of the gang, or it's hate of Turtle Boy.
They hate Turtle Boy.
99% of it. It's not, I watched some theories and I got caught and invested. That's a normal case. This is not normal. These people, it's like a cartel. It's like a gang. It's like a towny thing. And the town has been divided. And so you're either on one side or the other. And there are obviously a lot of silent majority people in Canton who are frightened. But so many times we hear from people, I gave you a donation, don't read my name.
Yeah, I get that too.
They're afraid. They've been bullied. And most of the bullying is coming from, let's be serious, the McAlberts or the Turtle Boy haters. The Turtle Boy haters are a small group, but they've been fighting this guy for decades. Mark Randazza, the lawyer, told Turtle Boy, Alex Jones may be more hated, but your haters are more organized and more dangerous. And that's the truth of it. Turtle Boy did punch down a lot in the past. He did, police blotter type material. So there's a lot of these people who have very upset that their ratchetness has been put on, that all their neighbors know how much of a scumbag they are. Let's be serious. A lot of the people are not the best people that he's focused on. So they've been organizing for years, and this is now their latest vessel. And now they got cops supporting them. They got townies supporting them. They feel like they're riding high. So that's what's really going on. It's not like I just kind of followed the case and now I'm invested in it. There might be some of that, like a normal case, but this is a lot different. This is like vested interest.
Well, you're right, is they want to see him fail, and he has gone on record and put his neck out there with what's going to happen, and they love it. I mean, now again, a hung jury doesn't get them ultimately where they hope to get, but it doesn't get him where he wanted to get either. And they want to see him fail and be wrong and then just rub his face in it. You're right. And Karen Reed is just the impetus for this tug of war. She's just stuck in the middle of it. They could care less about her one way or the other if they were being honest with themselves.
So this question's come up a couple times tonight. As far as the basement floors at the Albert household, and whether or not the FBI can or should check them. So the problem is, as far as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, since they sold the house and it's now under a different owner, it complicates things to a whole new level.
You'd have to gain the consent of the owner. And of course, I'm sure they would say, you're going to compensate me and all of that. Short of them agreeing to do that, I don't believe they're going to be able to get a warrant for it. All these years later, under, speculating that there could be a dog skeleton and bloody this and that. I mean, you're not going to get a warrant. So really what it comes down to is whether the homeowner says, sure, which, some might, if they get assurances how you're going to fix it. Right. Others might say, you've got to be kidding me.
The other alternative would be if somebody talked, right? If somebody admitted that there was a fight in the basement and that the dog or, blood or something was there, then they would be able to apply for a warrant. And
then it would become a tricky question because, you could at least pass the laugh test of a warrant. And then you're saying, am I going to rip up these innocent people's house, like on my own authority, which at that point they might be able to do it depending on how detailed the information is. I mean, if you have one person saying this is what happened, you should do it. I don't know. But if there's a real credible basis to believe that there's something evil hidden under there, they could try. But the easy way would be the homeowner saying, okay. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they would, though. I mean, would you? I don't know.
I wouldn't let anybody come in and rip the floor out of my basement. No.
What I mean, it's
tough call.
Right.
Much as I'd like to help, I wouldn't want to give up part of
it's
my
not like
house.
the feds are going to pay dollar for dollar to upgrade your floor either, right? They're going to give you a government grade replacement.
And then you lose it over all that time.
Contractor grade, right? From my perfect floor.
The noise and the people coming in and out. It just
and then it becomes a news story. Why are there all these cars there? And now it's your house is on display again, and they're already pissed off with all the people
driving
by, stopping, or at least one retired FBI agent's, going.
This is another no, I can't think about that without the theme song in my head now.
Tried to defend herself in that. She never answered the real money question, which was, why did you run away? If it was all so sincere and legitimate, why did you just ridiculously run away when you saw they were coming?
Because she's Anyway, this question has come up several times tonight as well. What effect does Proctor's rehoming and craziness have on the Walsh case?
It's not good. He was let's be the politically correct, case manager, I think is the word of the day that they use now, as opposed
also, I'm pretty sure that's another CIA term, just for the record.
Oh, is it really?
I believe so.
So the real question is, what did he do and how important was it? And are there other witnesses that could accommodate their case if he disappeared? If not, it's a problem. But I mean, if I were his lawyer, I'd be making motions saying, I want his phone. I want to know what did he, Proctor's whole story was, I was so upset about Karen Reed that 8 months later had to say these things I said about, it's so stupid. Which begs the obvious question. If she upset you by potentially backing into a guy, not that it's a good thing, and killing him, then surely you must have been upset by the freaking lunatic who took his, nice young wife, real estate agent, happy woman, and researched for months how to chop her up and do this and hide the body. And clearly that must have offended you such that you would tell your buddies and other things what you think about him. And God knows, not to get all macabre, what he must have said about the victim in that case.
Yeah.
What if he looked for nudes? What if he looked through her phone?
You know what? She was an attractive young woman.
She was.
And you know what? You really think if he's looking for nudes of one, he's not looking for nudes of the others? I don't.
That's even sicker.
And I got sent 3 corner kisses by Henry Blue saying, I live in Yarmouth, Massachusetts, Cape Cod, and I know of no one who thinks Karen is guilty. Just as return back to that one.
Yeah, how did we get into crapping on Cape Cod earlier? Yeah.
Somebody's got some horrible friends up there. That's what happened.
Brewster, come on, Brewster. I used to love going to Brewster. I used to go to Nauset Beach all the time.
I like Dennis.
Pick better friends. That's all I got to say.
We were like Brewster Orleans people, and that level of the kid.
So there was another totally unrelated event that's going on in Canton that happened in June, just last month, that I don't know if anybody else caught.
Oh, the car accident. The
car,
chief,
exactly. Yes, sir.
the
Exactly.
chief hit a pedestrian named Michael Barry.
And Michael Berry is filing a $200,000 lawsuit against the police chief.
Yeah, I mean, he got seriously hurt.
Yeah, for future medical expenses.
He was wearing a vest
clearly,
too, like an orange vest across the. Yeah.
Did they breathalyze the chief, I wonder?
No, they did not. I don't
Was
think
she
so.
on her way to do administrative duties at the police station?
I think she was looking for taillight pieces.
There you go. There you go. But this is another, like, how many scandals can one tiny little police station handle?
There's plenty. There's other ones too. I mean, did you hear about when they didn't find the guy? I think there was someone that got hit by a car accident, and they cleared the scene. They didn't find him, and then they found it later.
Yeah, the
Yes.
New Year's Eve one. Yeah, we read that one.
Yeah, there's been so much.
Hours later, right? Like,
Yeah, this town.
Yeah,
is
there was
is
someone riding
crash.
past on the road saying, "I think there's a dead guy on the front lawn," and they cleared the scene 2 hours before. After walking down the street, well, it was dark out, so we didn't really see him. And they had a lab technician having a meth lab in the police lab.
And
the
how
lab
about the
technicians
police dog?
filled-
You hear about the police dog in Canton?
No. What's up
One of
with
the guys
police
left the
dog?
police dog in the car. Dog died.
Get out of here.
was that in Canton?
Yep.
Oh,
Okay, now
I just heard about that.
let's say drunk Valhalla's at the bar, right? And canine officer six
Jameson and Ginger?
Maybe
Drinking Jameson and ginger?
Maybe ginger
Or White
gets
Claw.
me a little feisty. And I react violently and end this dog's life. Now, I would be charged with the murder of a police officer. Has this officer been charged with the murder of a
don't
police
believe
officer?
anything happened to him.
That makes me so mad.
I thought growing up, Canton was this nice, affluent town. It was the headquarters of Dunkin' Donuts. It was just a nice, I didn't know it was just. Well, I won't say I don't want to offend anyone, but I didn't think it was so bad. My God.
Well, let's just say they can't say anything about what's the Fall River or whatever accent that was she had that should be trashy. This isn't a much better place.
Fall River.
Well, I think about Lucky saying, like, I've never felt more understood in my life as when Lucky, the snowplow driver, got up there and was talking about how he has to watch so that he doesn't hit, a pedestrian or a car or, God forbid, an animal. Right. And I was like, that is my kind of people right there,
I like
he's got his priorities in line. I like
it. He does. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
So I love that. And then so then hearing about, the K9 and then the turtle. Oh my God, y'all, I cried when I saw the turtle on the noose in Turtle Boy's parents' house or yard or whatever.
So
I
I'm
literally
not
started
that picture
crying
for obvious reasons. But apparently after it was Monday, right? I believe.
Yeah.
He put up the picture last night.
So yesterday, after court, I don't know if he went there personally or if his parents told him or what happened, but somebody literally hung a turtle with a hole in its head at his parents' house, like on the fence.
Yep. And I think you might find out that it's even worse than you think. Like I'm not going to share some things I know about this whole thing, and just because I aid in privacy.
Sure.
But I think it's even worse. It's even worse than what we've seen. Just like how
I saw your favorite court TV guest, the female one from the other night, was already implying that he probably did it himself to garner attention and sympathy.
And then call the Worcester police on himself.
That's
where I don't think Aiden's stupid. I don't think Aiden's going to call the Worcester police.
I don't think he would have done that. I mean, that's pretty. But that's just what you're dealing with.
What was it, Lindsay, who put up a picture of the turtle with Turtle Boy's head on it?
That was Kimberly Fear, I believe it was, or one of the. She definitely reshared it. Or was that True Wine and Crime? Like they're
laughing about it.
Dumpster.
It was True Wine and Crime. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and Kimberly shared it too. Like
they're
these
laughing
people
about
are
it.
Horrible people.
That's disgusting.
And they think
But
it's
that could
funny.
also
There was
be
another guy
perceived
there
as
saying, I
another
hope
threat. I mean,
Turtle
that could
Boy
be a
got the point.
What'd you say, Mark?
That could be perceived as a real threat and a police
Yeah.
thing. I mean, that's again taking it to a whole level that's sick.
Yeah, and again, over what? This is a simple DUI hit and run. If we look on the merits of it, it's a simple DUI hit and run. It should have taken a week. It should have been one and done.
100%.
But
100%.
because all these people don't have a life, they should try to get their kids out of foster care instead of wasting so much time online and battling. We are not windmills. You're not Don Quixote. We are just internet talking heads. Your life won't get better if you get my channel taken down or Turtle Boy's channel get taken down. You will still be a loser.
Yeah, you still have a shitty job.
Yeah.
The beautiful part of the internet, y'all, is that people can see it in real time. It's so much harder to cover things up. You have to be, very powerful and have a whole lot of control over a large swath of the country to pull that off anymore. So it's getting more obvious when cover-ups happen.
Yeah.
And luckily, there's people like us that are out there talking about it when it does happen. Did anyone ever discover the significance of 8:22 a.m.? Lally kept asking where Proctor, Bukaki, and Higgins were at that time.
Yeah, that's when the that dash cam on the wellness check, that's the timestamp on the dash cam where they pulled into John's house and saw the back of her car, and they were saying that you could see where it was cracked right there. That was at 8:22. So he was asking where they were at 8:22 to show that they were not there or had not been there or whatever. But also, for anybody who missed, or if you don't listen to my podcast or whatever, if you haven't heard it, one of the things that when you put their testimony together, they both have different stories about what time they got to the police station too, which was interesting. Buchanan said that I think his time was that they got there, that he got there at like 9:15 and Proctor was already there, and Proctor's like, yeah, I think I got there around 10. So I don't know, who got where when, but I think they were trying to point that out because of the wellness check thing and show that they were still at home, but then what time they actually got there to Canton is sketchy.
Questionable, to say the least. All right, there's one final thing that I would like to address this evening, and it's just perfect, y'all. We all remember Trooper John O'Keefe, Officer John O'Keefe, was known as Nevercracker, I believe it was, right? Because he was fond of staying off my lawn,
like Proctor.
Yeah.
There you go.
Let me introduce you to Trooper Proctor.
Yeah, this is great.
This is amazing.
This is a great reporter to Kathy Card.
When the Karen Reed case ended in a mistrial, we caught up with him just a few moments ago to ask him his thoughts on the outcome of the case. Trooper Proctor, Kathy Curran from NBC 10. We'd like to ask you some questions. Do you think your actions impacted the outcome of the trial?
Get off your lawn. Right?
I'm not on your lawn. I'm on the street. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
I fully support my husband. Karen Reed is a murderer.
You support your husband?
And I did borrow this from Aiden, so I don't want to play the rest of his video. Go check it out. But I don't know if there's anything more poetic about this entire situation than that simple line right there.
I hope she shows up at Tully and Bukaki next.
Oh my God. That man deserves everything that's coming to him, and he's got a whole lot of it coming. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, he's a gutless coward. I mean, I understand his wife supports husband. We have kids. It's a complicated thing, but she has not acquitted herself well, both in real time back then, agreeing with that Karen Reed should kill herself. This behavior that she exhibited yesterday, calling Karen Reed a murderer, and I support my husband. And even in some of her crazy social media posts that she put up right after Proctor testified, I mean, it's hard to have any sympathy for her. I mean, I feel
No,
bad for their kids that
it's
they have to grow up knowing that your father is a disgraced, corrupt police officer. That's horrible. But I mean, she's
co-signing it.
Right.
she's pretty bad. I mean, it's hard to feel sympathetic for her. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't.
Talk
But
about
again-
harassment. She harassed people. She called people's
All
work,
in.
trying to get
She's
them
all in.
fired.
Yeah.
But
She's
we
just
talked
as-
about we
Go
talked
ahead.
about this the first time I did a panel show. This is Copland.
Yes.
She
Yep.
likes. This is like being a mafia wife.
Yes.
They're all
She gets
part
a
of the
lot
same
of
club.
benefits out of being a cop wife in this town. All of these nasty women, what do they all have
Well,
in common?
She didn't get the real benefits she thought she was getting. Remember?
Well,
She never
She
got
was expecting the gift, wasn't she?
Never
Her
got
daddy,
it.
her
I
daddy
mean, that's
Oh,
why
the
she's
gift.
she's going home and shutting the door and saying, "You idiot! You cost me my jewelry, you moron!"
I almost had a mink, you son of a bitch.
You had to send those texts. You had to send those texts, you jackass.
All right.
but-
I think we're going to wrap it up, y'all. Chat, thank you so much. Let's go ahead and take a second each to tell everybody what we're doing and where to find us.
Well, Broken Baker, you can find me under that name on the Broken Baker on YouTube, Twitter, everywhere else. And I'm on vacation.
Yes, sir.
Enjoy.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bederow.
You can find me as a guest. I don't have my own channel. I don't want my own channel. I'm a fully practicing lawyer. So tomorrow morning I'll be in court. But, happy to participate in these things when you have them. And just on Twitter, Bederow Law. That's it.
Outstanding. Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you.
Miss Brandy Churchwell.
I'm Brandy. My YouTube is under my name, Brandy Churchwell, and I have 13-0 podcast that I'm very proud of. It's been my whole second season of the podcast is a deep dive on this case. So starting from all of the, I think I started like towards the end of last summer, and it's a kind of a deep dive on everything leading up to the case and then following it through the case and putting all of the craziness together into as much of a cohesive story as I can and trying to find all the holes. And so it's 13-0 podcast. The whole second season is Conspiracy in Canton.
And where can we find that podcast?
Everywhere. It's Apple, Spotify. I have a playlist on my YouTube for it too. So it's anywhere you get podcasts.
Outstanding. Thank you so much.
Thank
Mr. Mike Crawford.
Well, Young Jerks on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Pretty much it. Just look. Make sure you spell jerks right. JURKS. The Young Jerks.
Very well. Very good, sir. And I, of course, am Valhalla. You've already found my YouTube channel, so welcome to the club. On Twitter at _Valhalla awaits. And chat, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you all, my beautiful panelists. And stick around for just a second so we can say our proper goodbyes.
And
If you would be still
before anyone says goodbye and go enjoy the rest of the night, give our homeboy a like, maybe a subscription.
Yes, hit the like.
He would like to do it. He's been on so many other panels, never asking for anything. It's his first live stream. I think he's a little
Well said.
overwhelmed with all you people showing up today, but he has been doing an amazing job, and I'm way better at shilling you than I'm at shilling myself.
And he's the goat daddy. He's the goat daddy. So
Goat daddy. I love that. I love the goat. Do
Thank
you
you all.
actually take care of goats? Is that what's going on?
Yeah. So I guess a little about me. I'm a disabled veteran, right? I was in the Army, went to Iraq twice, got blown up a bunch. So apparently those explosions are real bad for a brain. And I moved out of Illinois.
But you didn't
and-
have anyone to start with.
Fair. Came down to East Tennessee, and my wife and I started a goat farm. And that's what we do now. I live in the middle of nowhere and avoid people and just do my socializing on the internet now. So it works out quite well for me. Quite well.
How many goats do you have on the farm?
At the moment, only 25. We started very small, right? We built from the ground up, and it's a lot of work, and it's probably exactly what I needed when I needed it, and we're growing. We started with originally, I think, 3 does and a buck, and we've gotten to where we are now.
So the
it-
buck's
talk
been
to
a
the
busy
goat?
guy. If he's
Well, my
25
avatar.
goats, he's a busy buck.
My avatar up there is the buck in question. His name is Jasper. He weighs probably over 200 pounds and occasionally wants to fight me. So
Wow.
it's a good time. It's a good time.
Busy man, that Jasper. Good for him.
He's super busy. He's super busy. Again, I appreciate you all so much, and we're gonna leave out on this note. Ooh, 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 ooh.
In the cold night he stands tall.
I like it.
Go to it too.
Under stars they hear his call. He is brave, he fears no fall. In the cold night he stands tall, sword in hand, ready to brawl.
Oh, wait. Dang it. I'm so bad at this, you guys. I forgot to redirect. Hold on just a second. We are clearly going to send all of you to a friend or a relevant channel. Give me just a second. Listen to the music while I figure this out. I got everybody else muted, so you're just listening to me. I was so close. I was so close to pulling it off. Enjoy the music, though. I like it a lot. Recovery Addict is live. We'll go there. There we go.
Echo through hill and shore. Enemies tremble to the core as he fights forevermore.
Oh, Jesus.
Ravens fly and wolves
I'm a professional.
in the night the spirits crawl.
All right, we're all set up.